Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit, and I'm joined here by two members of a development team that I very much like, and they're going to be talking a little bit about the forthcoming sequel to a game that I enjoyed greatly back when it came out in Europe in late 2004. The game went by the name of Nexus: The Jupiter Incident, and it was a fairly incomparable fleet simulator game. And these guys are looking to try and kickstart Nexus 2: The Gods Awaken. So I'm joined by Vincent van Diemen and Attila Anger, who will be talking to you a little bit about the game. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Hello.
Let's talk a little bit about what you are offering with Nexus 2 by starting with a little bit of context, because I'm not sure that many people that are really watching this know an awful lot about Nexus: The Jupiter Incident. So why don't you give us a little bit of an impression of what that game was in your own words?
Okay. Well, let me start then. Nexus was, you already said it, it was considered a fleet commander game. It was a science fiction game set in a very unique universe, and it had a quite unique type of gameplay. Fleet commander is maybe not clear to everybody what it exactly means, but you do control a fleet of ships, but not by like steering them or any way, but more on a tactical level. You command your ships during the missions by sending them to waypoints, giving them commands about attack or whatever evasive maneuvers or stuff that they have to do. And at the same time, between the different missions, it's your task to make sure that the ships are equipped with all the proper tools that you need to conquer the next mission. What makes Nexus special is, like I said, it's a unique universe, and the game does put a lot of effort in storytelling, with I think a very nice story, and taking the time in each and every mission to do a proper introduction of what's going on. And on top of that, the plentiful dialogues. There's even a diary of the main character, Marcus Cromwell. It's very much an experience, a unique environment with fantastic graphics and good music and storytelling, and of course quite unique gameplay. This is how I would describe Nexus in my own words.
Indeed. And now there are a few people who are probably saying to themselves now, well, isn't that just Homeworld? Now, I know that's not true, but why don't you explain the difference between Nexus and a game like Homeworld?
Basically, what Homeworld does, absolutely fabulous, by the way, it's like Command and Conquer in space. So you take care of resource collection, the type and the amount of resource you collect, and a sort of a technology tree that you go through. Very much decides what sort of and in what numbers equipment you have. In Nexus, there's no, like, say, traditional RTS resource collection. You get rewarded a specific resource by completing the missions, but like the resource collection as such is not present. So I think this is the most typical difference. Also, like in Nexus, there is a predetermined number of ships that you have for each particular mission. The way that you equip them and the loadout of the ships, that's you're completely free to do so, but there is a predetermined number of ships, usually like capital size ships, and you control these, so you do not use swarms of smaller ships that you build in a factory. There's no resource collection, there's no unit building. That's basically, in short, the biggest difference between Nexus and Homeworld.
Indeed. I mean, it has elements of real-time strategy in it, but it is perhaps more accurate to describe Nexus as real-time fleet tactics, and removing the resource gathering from the equation means that you can focus solely on each individual ship, and you're also talking about managing subsystems and targeting specific parts of enemy craft and things along those lines. Now, Nexus came out a good long time ago, as I said, November 2004 and Q1 2005 in the US. It is now 2012. Now, in between that release and this date, I did see a little bit about Nexus 2. There was actually a tech demo released on the subject of Nexus 2, but then all went very quiet indeed. So can you tell us what happened there?
Sure, I can. HD Interactive was the publisher of Nexus. After the game was initially signed by German publisher CDV, but then at some point it was cancelled by them, and HD picked up the game. We successfully managed the game through its final stages of development and released it to the market. The game was at that time developed by Mythos, and that was a Hungarian studio based in Budapest. Now, after Nexus was released, we started a different project with the very same studio, with Mythos, called Joint Task Force. And Joint Task Force was an RTS, contemporary RTS set in like the modern theaters of war, like Iraq, Afghanistan. During the same time that we were working on Joint Task Force, there was a small team of people was working on a new proprietary engine that we were planning to use for Nexus 2. This was a completely like a brand new engine built up from scratch, really. And these people were working on it. Now, during the development of both the prototype as well as the Joint Task Force game that we were working on at HD, Mythos went into bankruptcy. So what we did at the time, me and Mike Horneman, the owner of HD Interactive, we went to Budapest and we set up a studio there. We managed to hire all the people, or at least, most of the people that were working at Mythos at the time, several projects. And after long fights with curators and lawyers and much more than just that, we managed to get hold of the source code of Joint Task Force. So we were able to complete that project. But the source code of the Nexus 2 prototype, which is basically just been released to us, not to the public. It was never meant to be released to the public. It was a technology demo to demonstrate what the new Nexus technology was able to do. But the source code of that technology was lost in the bankruptcy. At the same time, a lot of the resources of HD Interactive went into founding the new studio and making sure that we were able to complete Joint Task Force. And that was the reason why we were not able to immediately at the time start a new project for Nexus 2. That's basically the reason. It's quite a long story, but that is why, it's been something that we've always wanted to do, but we were lacking the resources. And apparently, we need Kickstarter, so we still do. But we're not giving up yet.
All right. So you're now building this game around the Unreal Engine, and you are looking to create a brand new Nexus game. So I have to ask, what kind of changes can we expect from the original going into Nexus 2?
We wanted to keep all the good things from Nexus 1 because people like that, and it was the things which made the game unique. So we kept everything and we improved some of the things. One of the things is the trial and error bug or problem with the first game, that the player couldn't know what is in the next mission. So they had to just equip their ships and then go into the mission and try and find out what happens. So now we will provide information about the next mission and the next engagement, and the players can equip their ships according to that. This we wanted to do in the first game too, but we didn't have the time. Another improvement is the new NPC class, the PSIs, who are very powerful NPCs, who has very powerful but very limited usage abilities, which can change the flow of battle if they are used in the correct time. Like, one of the powers is that they can regenerate the HP of any ship. They can use this once in a engagement, so we don't want to overpower them. Yep. So the another new feature is the modular ship design. This means that almost all the ships will have one or more modules. Modules are parts of the ship which can be destroyed separately from the ship. And everything on the module, every device, this can be weapons, shields, generators, electric warfare devices, anything, also will be destroyed. So of course this will be visible on the ship models and can be targeted accordingly. These are the major changes.
All right, so the game itself did actually feature multiplayer in the first instance, and indeed it was quite popular for a while, since a lot of the modding scene for Nexus Jupiter Incident centered around the multiplayer. We did see Battlestar Galactica related mods, we saw Star Trek related mods, and a wide variety of other things which seemed to work out quite well there. Is modding something that you're looking to support in Nexus 2?
Definitely, we want to. We were very aware of the modding community, and we want to give them a lot more tools to play with. And we want to make the game to be able to mod any aspect of the game. So, if they want to mod the game, they will be able to. They can make new campaigns. They can put in new ships, new music. They can change the game user interface. Basically, we want to make the game so they can change anything they want.
Now, Nexus came out a good few years ago, and it was a niche title even at the time. And this is the time when homeworld games were still being released, and there were more space games than we're getting right now. And for the last few years, we've seen basically hide nor hair of anything when it comes to the space genre. So why now? Why is 2012 the right time to try and release the second game?
That's a good question, but it's also a tricky one. I think that, as far as I'm concerned, there's still some space games around, but the problem is, like, space games are to sort of pushed or forced into the corner in terms of, the big publishers are not interested in space games. They were not interested in space games at the time, and they're not interested in space games now. And all the big publishers, they work with internal studios, so they have complete control over what kind of games, they release. So it's a few smaller publishers that do have some space games, and there are some very brave, courageous developers that manage to fund their games and release them through a self-publishing model. So there is some games there, but it's very niche. And again, Nexus, like you said, Nexus was quite niche at the time, and it will still be. But even at that time, not a lot of not the big publishers were not interested in it, and just as much as now. So I think that it doesn't really matter what genre game you make. There's always an audience. If you create the audience. If it may not be something that everybody's waiting for, but when there's a good game in a specific genre, or basically in any genre, there will be a market for it. 2012 is as good a year as any, and if we do not manage it this time around, I'm sure that we'll have another trick up our sleeve. I can't say we do, but we'll come up with something, and then 2013 is good as well, as long as the game's good.
Indeed. So I'd like to know, how far along is the game in its current form, if at all? I'm intrigued to know basically what people are paying for and what stage the game is currently at. And obviously I've had a look at the Kickstarter video, and it's shown a great deal of concept art as well as material from the old tech demo, which you aren't necessarily going to be using. So can you tell us a bit about the current state of Nexus 2?
The only work being done right now is concept art and design. We have the design, the overall design, the high-level design, and a bit more detail than that. We have the design ready, and we're working on concept art, but we're not coding. I can explain why this is. The thing is that we're not sure if we'll get the game funded this time around in Kickstarter. And as far as the game design is concerned, concept art is concerned, stuff like that, that's always, we can always reuse that. If we have to, postpone all our plans with 1 year or 1.5 years, we can still use the design, and we can still use the concept art. Maybe we have more, different ideas, or we want to elaborate on things that we've come up with in the meantime. All the designs can be adjusted. For coding, it's a bit different. So we are not in a position to fully fund the development of the game. That is why we started the Kickstarter project. And if we would invest resources into actually starting the development of the game, like coding, and we would have to postpone it for a year or 1.5 years, then it's 90% certain that all this effort will be wasted. So we don't want to waste any resources. We've got the design ready. Basically, when we have the funds to develop the game, it's we can start in basically just a few days' time. But we're not putting any resources at the moment in things that we're not sure that we can complete without having to replace them later on.
Okay, so I've got to say, you do have an estimated delivery date of December 2013. Now, obviously, that does say estimated, but that's a year development cycle for a fairly complex game that you currently only have in concept. Do you think that a year development cycle is a little bit too short for a game like this, or is this something that you see yourself being able to complete, and if so, how?
But let me be honest with you. I have expressed concerns about this when we were discussing this date, and there is absolutely no guarantee that we will be able to do this in a year time. We have a lot of experienced people. We are. There's a lot of stuff that we do not. A lot of game development time is put into these prototyping little game concepts, and we have a lot of these game concepts, so we can be quite efficient at developing Nexus too. We will recreate a lot of the game mechanics as we know them, and we will refine them, we will improve them, just as Angus was telling. There's plenty of stuff that we've been criticized on, or that we know that was not as good as it could have been. So we're improving on these, and so we can be very effective, very efficient. Whether a year is enough is very hard to tell, but what I can say is that everybody who puts their money in it must rest assured we will not deliver anything in December 2013 if we think it needs another 3 months. So quality will be our primary goal. It's hard to say, but it's going to be challenging.
Okay.
Also, we still have the original Nexus final specifications. For example, the tactical part is, I think, over 100 pages. So we didn't lose everything. And with those very detailed specifications, it will be much easier to recreate it.
All right. Now, let's give a couple more questions actually before we round this out. So I just want to talk a little bit about the financing, because you did mention that the financing was, it's quite a lot of money that you're asking for, although it's not as much as other companies have. You're looking for currently $650,000 on Kickstarter. Now, will this entirely fund the game, or are you guys also investing some of your own capital into it?
No, it's not enough to develop the game. I know it's a lot of money, but like you say, it's a fairly complex game, and we're going to put a large team on it. And I think people in Hungary are still working at a competitive level very much. So even developing. I mean, if we would develop it in the UK, we would obviously spend more money on our human resources. HD Interactive is investing a significant amount on top of the money that we try to gather on Kickstarter.
Okay.
So it is a lot of money. It's a big project, and in game development, especially if you want to, create a big game, then it's not that much. If you've played the game, apparently, you know how much dialogue is in there, and you also know how good quality is. That takes time, that takes money. It's a lot of money, but it's a very fair amount for the game that we're going to make.
Okay. All right, folks. If you wish to check out Nexus 2, there isn't there's no actual demo or anything currently available for Nexus 2, but Nexus, the Jupiter incident, is actually out and has been out for a very long time. It does work on modern systems. You can pick it up from GOG. I believe it's also available on Steam. Works just fine with Windows 7, although you may have to mod it to get it to work in widescreen because the game is fairly old. That's worth checking out, and if you want to have a look at the Kickstarter, then I've put a link in the description below this video. At this time of recording, there will be 11 days left to go on this Kickstarter. Quite a bit of money to still be pledged in order to make this happen. So if this is the kind of game that you are looking forward to, then I would strongly suggest that you go and Kickstart it to make sure it actually happens. Vincent and Attila, thank you very much for coming on the show today.
We appreciate very much all the effort you put into promoting our little project, and apparently you appreciate the first game as well. So we, I hope that we will be able to create Nexus 2, and then maybe we'll speak again.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. If I do have time, then you may see a piece of content on the original Nexus pop up in the not too distant future. We shall see if I can somehow fit into my schedule. But thank you very much for coming on the show. Best of luck with your Kickstarter, ladies and gentlemen. My name is TotalBiscuit, talking about Nexus 2: The Gods Awaken, currently on Kickstarter. The link is in the description below this video. I'll see you next time.